And as people join us, then.
Yes, everything's good on our end. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Chicago Wilderness Alliance's Executive Council meeting for April of 2024. We're so pleased that everyone could make time out of your busy schedules. It is a dynamic time of year with a lot of activity going out in the field. Obviously, work. I know a group is in Washington, D.C., Land Trust Alliance, and today's their lobby day. And I know we've got activity down in a variety of our state capitals that are also happening during this time of year as everything's going through on session. So we're so glad that everyone is with us this morning. We'll start off with introductions, and then for this process, our task, as soon as you communicate who you are, just send it off to someone else, tag somebody. And then as we get towards the end, if in fact you haven't been noticed, raise your hand and we'll make sure that someone does call on you. So again, Elizabeth Kessler, I'm the Executive Director for the McHenry County Conservation District and serving currently as Chair of the Chicago Wilderness Alliance. And I will turn it over to Victoria Wittig.
Good morning, everyone. Victoria Wittig. I am the Ambassador for the Northwest Indiana Urban Waters Federal Partnership and currently serve as Vice Chair for CWA. And I will send it on over to Mark.
Hi, everybody. Mark Bowman at the Field Museum, and I also serve on the steering committee and as the treasurer for the Alliance. Let's see, Ted Hafner.
Morning, everybody. My name is Ted Hafner. I am a landscape architect by training. I am unaffiliated currently, except that I am on the steering committee for Chicago Wilderness Alliance, and I am head of the climate initiative. I will pass it along to Maria.
Hi, everyone. I'm Maria Sadowski. I'm a communications consultant with the Chicago Wilderness Alliance, and I will pass it to Laura.
Hello, everyone. I'm Laura Riley. I'm the Managing Director of Chicago Wilderness Alliance, and I'd like to pass it to Casey.
Hello, everyone. I am Casey Sullivan with Argonne National Laboratory, and I participate on a number of the committees, and I will pass it off to Daniel Suarez.
Good morning, everybody. Daniel Suarez, Senior Conservation Manager with Audubon Great Lakes, and also one of the co-leads on the agriculture team. I will pass it on to Sergio.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sergio Vargas. I'm the Chicagoland Conservation Manager at the Illinois Environmental Council and also on the steering committee here with the Chicago Wilderness Alliance. And I'll pass it over to Jack.
Hi, everyone. Jack Brunner with Tetra Tech, involved in several committees with Chicago Wilderness Alliance as well. And I'll pass it off to Mark Johnston.
Hi, everybody. Mark Johnson with the Field Museum. I focus primarily on hub activities and sort of lead up that mapping group and also work with the Growing Chicago group as well out of UIC. I will pass it to Kathy Garrity.
Thank you. I'm Kathy Garrity. I'm with the Forest Preserves of Cook County, and I am also on the steering committee and co-chair of Protecting Landscapes for Biodiversity Conservation. And I will pass it to Stephen Byers. It's nice to see you here, Steve. You're muted.
Hi, I'm Steve Byers. I'm the chair of Friends of Hackmatack National Wildlife Refuge. And I'll pass it along to Joe.
Hey, Steve. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. This is Joe Fassett with Illinois Audubon Society. We are members of the Alliance. Glad to be here. And I'm going to pass it on to Paul.
Well, hello. I'm Paul Botts. I'm the Executive Director of the Wetlands Initiative here in Chicago. And these days, what I'm most involved with Chicago Wilderness is the upcoming Congress in the Calumet in November on the planning and so forth, and some cheerleading, as some of you already know because you've been on calls with me recently. I'm going to pass it. I actually don't know, a little bit late. I don't know who all is gone, but I'll pass it on to John Legg unless he tells me he's gone already.
Hey, good morning. This is John Legg. I'm Chicago Conservation Director with the Illinois Chapter of Nature Conservancy. And I joined a couple minutes late too, so I am not sure who else has gone. How about Bill Miller?
Yeah, hi, John. Bill Miller, I'm Professor Emeritus at Northwestern University. I'm involved with the CAPN and also part of the Climate Action Group. And I will pass it over to Travis Wood. You're muted, I think. We can't hear you.
Yeah, just go ahead and raise your hand if you haven't been called on, and we can popcorn it over to you. Zach?
Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Zach Wirtz. I am the new director of the Chicago Region Trees Initiative at Morton Arboretum. And I'll pass things over to Noreen.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. I'm Noreen Rana. I'm a senior project manager with the Chicago Park District. I work primarily with our natural areas team, and I am going to pass it to Brandon.
Hello, my name is Brandon Keim. I'm with the Chicago Department of Public Health Violence Prevention Unit, and glad to be here. I don't see any other hands up, so I might be the last.
Let's go to Dean Farr. Dean? Maybe you have to unmute yourself if you can't do that. You can hit the space bar. Jessica?
Morning, everyone. I'm Jessica Rednick. I'm a research social scientist with the U.S. Forest Service based in Evanston office. I'll pass it down the line to Patrick.
Good morning, everybody. Pat Thomas, Public Affairs in the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago. Thanks for having me. I'll pass it off to Pat.
Morning, everyone. I'm Pat Charleboy. I'm the Assistant Director for Outreach for Illinois Indiana Sea Grant with Illinois Extension, and I think I'm last.
Yes, thank you, everyone. If you haven't gone, just unmute yourself now, but please go ahead if you haven't already dropped your name into the chat. Please do that as well. Thank you. With your organization.
Hey, Laura, I'm calling in. This is Mike Lester from Magnolia Land Partners. Sorry, I'm on the road. But I'm also a member of the steering committee. So nice to hear everyone.
Thanks, Mike.
Good morning, folks. This is Drew Hart, also calling in via phone with the U.S. Forest Service in Urban and Community Forestry, also serving on the Congress Committee this year. Great to be here.
Hi, this is Lindsay Vasek from ComEd. We are also on the committee and part of the Prioritizing Green Infrastructure Goal. Sorry about my tech issues.
No problem.
Hey, good morning. My name is Steph Mueller, and I'm with the Coastal Management Program for the Illinois Department of Natural Resources. Thank you.
Hi, all. Rebecca Judd is also on from the Gaylord and Dorothy Donnelly Foundation. Good morning.
Morning. Right.
Hey, I think we have everyone. And again, thank you so much. Put your name in the chat if you've not done so we can record you. It's so great to have a full house this morning. We do have an action-packed agenda with a lot of great programs. We are mixing things up a little bit as one of the feedback items that we've had in past, although we're still in an environment where we're using Zoom, which is wonderful. With a 4-state alliance, we're able to get everybody, no matter where you're at, engaging with us with these new technology tools. And then we are focused on at least once, if not twice a year, trying to do a hybrid meeting like we did back in January, just so that we can get together and connect in person. To start off with our meeting, we start off with our shared agreements, and I did place this up on Session Lab. And just so as we're here, we're all to be present, opportunity to allow others and diverse thoughts and opinions to be shared among the group. It's a safe space, and just to be acknowledged, recognized, raise your hand, and we'll make sure we're reviewing the room so that we can have your thoughts heard. We're following the agenda, and then always wonderful to ask clarifying questions so that as we leave this with the information, that we have a good understanding of our conversations. We're all agreement to those shared agreements?
Yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right, for today's agenda, before we approve this, were there any other items that anyone from the Executive Council would like to add to today's agenda? Okay, hearing none, I'll take a motion to approve the agenda as presented for today.
So moved.
So moved by Mark. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Victoria. All right, any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor, motion by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. All right, the agenda for today is approved. First order of business is our standing consent agenda. And Laura, if you want to start the slideshow, I don't know, or Maria? or
Yeah.
Lake?
I will do that, yes. Maria, are you not able to share?
I'm sorry, I'm having technology problems.
Okay, I'll do it right now. Here we go. Can you see it?
We've got it.
Perfect. Thanks. There we are.
Okay. And Laura, you did the slides here, so we'll know as we're going through here. On the consent agenda, I'll just read these through because you have slides that go towards this, and I think we're going to get into this in more detail just as a moment here. We've got introduction of new partners, Kettle Moraine Land Trust and North Cook Soil and Water Conservation District. We have executive session minutes from last month, that should say January on here. Sorry, I'm on the wrong session lab here. I apologize, folks. I'm not feeling the best today, so I'm on the wrong session lab as I'm reading here. We have new partners. Thank you, Laura. We've got Monarchs, Milkweed and More, Panther Training, Prairie State Conservation Coalition, and Trust for Public Land. Thank you. Now we've got the slide that we're in alignment. We have Executive Council minutes from January of 2024, Treasurer's report for Q1, and then a fiscal sponsor renewal agreement with Friends of the Forest Preserve, and we're so thankful for their continued agreement. Mark, as treasurer, anything that you want to highlight on for the Executive Council on the Treasurer's report?
Yeah, folks can see on their on the session lab, you can see the PDF there. We sit at $496,000 in cash right now. Which I'm happy to say I checked where we were at the end of the third quarter in 2023, and we were at about 397. So we're up about $100,000 in cash from where we were a year ago. This quarter, we went from last year. We were up in both revenues and expenses, but the quarterly margin last year we were. In the first quarter, revenues exceeded expenses by about 20,000. This year it was 40,000. So in general, I think we're in pretty solid shape, and we've got some grants in the hopper too. That leads us to feel we're operating with a little bit of maneuvering room these days. So I'm happy to take any questions and turn it back to Elizabeth.
Thank you, Mark. Are there any questions from anyone in the Executive Council on the consent agenda items, treasurer minutes, or the agreement that we have with Friends?
Maybe I'll close with a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mark. Do I have a second?
I will second.
Thank you so much. I believe that was Victoria here at the screen. Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor, motion by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. All right, wonderful. Thank you. And just again for process with executive council members, all of you here are voting members of the council and therefore have a voice vote on these items. All right, let's move ahead to Alliance Partner. Again, we're just acknowledging we've had much leadership change in the area, and we just want to welcome our new leadership as well as our new partners that are here on the slide. But a shout out in Illinois, we have Michael Davidson from Open Lands, Georgie Garrity from the Nature Conservancy. Arnold Randall has moved over to the Gaylord Dorothy Donnelly Foundation, Todd Stroll to the Illinois Department of Natural Resources, and Zach Wertz to Morton Arboretum. From Indiana, Dean Bruce Berderner, if I'm saying that right, PNW Engineering and Sciences Department, and at the federal level, Craig McPeak and Cassie Skaggs has been with Forest Service, but we just want to acknowledge their work. Anyone else that knows any other new arrivals in leadership positions from our partners that we did not capture?
Yes, I just wanted to mention that the Indiana Dunes National Park has recently brought on board a new superintendent, Dr. Jason Taylor. He is remote at present, but will be in the region this May. So looking forward to welcoming him to the Alliance and learning more about his vision for the park.
Thank you, Victoria. Anyone else? All right, well, we welcome their involvement with the Alliance and again, all our partners that participate with us in our activities. Okay, if we can move to the next slide, please. Are we going to do okay, I'll just go in the order of the slides here, Laura. The next one I have is the Excellence in Ecological Restoration and Force of Nature. He's out of order.
I apologize. I apologize for this.
There we go.
I don't know how the order got changed.
All right, thank you. Do we have representation? Is Andrew, Mark, or Catherine with us this morning?
Not yet. Catherine will be joining us at 10 o'clock. And Andrew could not make it, but we wanted to recognize and thank all of the Excellence in Ecological Restoration sites that were accredited in our January celebration. And I have a link to that I can drop into the chat. I'm going to stop sharing, or I'm going to just try to grab that so that I can get that link pulled up here shortly. But
Laura, I've got it.
okay, thank you. Oh, okay.
Technology can be our friend and not so much sometimes when you want
I
it to
have
work,
a
right?
lot of, yes, I have a lot of screens open and I apologize for that.
Do we want to highlight? It is in Session Lab for everyone. With that, we had 2 sites that were accredited this past year, Platinum and Gold. And of course, all the levels of accreditation are amazing. Again, they align with our biodiversity plan that we have here. And that's actually showing work that's on the ground to meet exceptional standards and stewardship. And so really pleased with the commission on their work. And when applications open, that we're hopeful that we will have additional sites to be accredited for the upcoming year, as well as with the Force of Nature Award. Again, such a great celebration of all the accomplishments and activities that are going on by individuals, all of the programs, and then the partnerships we have. So clearly these programs happen every other year. The Force of Nature Award was named after Dr. George Robb for his leadership, and it's an honor to be able to celebrate and acknowledge all the great work. And I do know that the committee is looking forward into the upcoming next round, which will be in 2025, exploring adding corporate categories or some additional new categories for recognition, just again, as we continue to expand our work, really important that we're highlighting all of the different successes that we're having in the region.
I can go through some of the feedback that we received from 2023. And, you know, what we felt was that our criteria was limited and that there could be some new categories that are added, and maybe that would help create an easier time for our judges or our reviewers who were looking at a wide variety of longevity in a career versus emerging professionals with really new and novel ideas. And so some of the recommended categories will be changed in 2025, and that we would create the form that was a little more standardized, because obviously some proposals received many letters of support, others we needed to work with the submissions to get letters of support uploaded. So we will start earlier in the process to do some outreach to the nominations, and we will cap our letters of support at 3. And, you know, I think that one of the things is, like, for these partnerships, we're so fortunate to have so many people involved with the Force of Nature Partner Awards, and we only have primary contact information and rely on them to reach out to their partners, and we'll do a better job of doing that outreach in the future. So, but looking forward to the next round. It's a wonderful event.
Thank you, Laura. Any other feedback from anyone from council on the Force of Nature or Excellence in Ecological Restoration program? All right, well, thank you. And again, as you get ideas, please feel free to share with our leadership on those programs. All right, the next item we have is just some general announcements for the Alliance. And we've been working on a variety of things. One of the key areas is to build capacity for the Alliance. And we're so happy and honored. Laura has been with us. It's hard to believe since version 2.0 here, almost about 5 years here, Laura. And we have decided as the council to elevate her to managing director. So I just want to give a shout out and a round of applause to Laura on behalf of all of us of her great leadership. And we're so excited that she's taking on this new role and adding on to all the great work, and to be able to recognize her with such. So Laura, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. With that, Laura, and she is an employee, as with our Friends of Partnership with Friends of the Forest Preserve. They service all of our needs. And so with that, we did also change Laura's work hours, although Laura puts in a lot of time and volunteers, but making sure that she has a work-life balance as well in all that she does. And so that was an important part as well, giving her the opportunity. So as an employee that she has times off for vacation, she's compensated to sick time. And so really pleased to be able to move her into that status. We also then have introduction of an intern that now is our new program assistant, Lake Schulke. And if you've been monitoring and watching on social media and all the great posts and interaction, that's because of the team, both with Laura and Maria, who we've had as our communications consultant, but now also Lake being able to handle that on a regular basis. So we're so pleased to have her adding to our capacity. And then Andrew Delgadillo, as I'm saying, please, Laura, I'm going to mess this up here.
For Delgadillo.
Delgadillo is with us as a new intern serving with us. And again, we're pleased to have them with us. So thank you both. And is Lake here this morning as well?
She is.
Lake, do you want to say hello?
Hi, everybody. Good morning. It's great to see everyone. I've been having a great time doing communications work with Laura and Maria, and I'm just happy to be here and happy to help and get our social media channels flowing.
You're doing a great job with that. The other change that we have made, and Ted is with us, and Ted is on the serving committee, and he's been helping with the GVI leads, and we wanted to formally move forward through the steering committee because we had budgeted to have someone to assist us in coordinating. And so Ted will be stepping into the GVI coordinating role, working to pull that GVI Coordinating Council group together. So Ted, congratulations and thank you again for stepping up to formally acknowledge the work that you're doing. And then we have an outgoing steering committee member, Jim Anderson, Citizens for Conservation. He has stepped down for the steering committee. And so we'll talk a little bit later about call for nominations to fill the seats on the council's steering committee. But thank you to Jim for his leadership. He's been with the Alliance for quite some time, Citizens for Conservation staying involved. But being on the steering committee does take some additional time and effort. And so we thank him for his leadership as well as our existing members. All right, if we can move on to work plan priorities. This is just a recap. This year through last year was our year of action. 2024 is our year of Stronger Together. And we just wanted to highlight from the steering committee, just the focus and get feedback and input from council, really 3 top tiers that we're focused on of themes, and that was alignment, organizational strength, and scheduling. And under alignment, one of the key strategies that we have this year is to hold a successful Congress on November 14th, November 15th, and you hear more about that later this morning. An alliance that's aligned around climate resiliency as we work through our GVI groups, that everything is tucking under that resiliency for climate. We feel there's a common theme there, as you'll see with many opportunities that we've been focused on with action items. Under organizational strength, the GVI work plans and future funding opportunities, just so that we can focus and really build support for those areas that are so great. And then we did submit a NOAA grant. We did meet that deadline, and we're waiting to hear on being hopefully successful recipient of those funds that will help to our core work and help us advance all of the actionable items that we have planned. And then scheduling, one of the big areas that was identified through PCI's report as we rebranded and went into the year of action was more continued outreach and engagement with all of our partners, but particularly our corporate partners. And so we are working on work streams to assist us in strengthening that, as well as getting a new format for executive council meetings, getting back to more engagement and participation during these meetings for feedback. Anything else from steering committee or other members of the council that you'd like to highlight on these high priorities? There's a lot of other specifics under this that we will share, but these are the top line for our focus areas.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
All right, Laura, anything else on your end?
No, not this time.
Okay, you can advance it. Then at the January meeting, not only did we highlight where we were past year with all the successes, but we did have some conversations. And so we did want to recap just briefly on the specific conversations and themes that came forward. We're hopeful that as each of the partners, as well as the working groups and teams and GVI teams work towards their plans, that they consider these items as top of conversation and can kind of blend these into their work. We had a variety of 6 questions that we asked with breakout, and just a top line here you can see, and we'll just scroll through the slides of kind of the themes of where we were on conversations, all tying back to the Alliance. So as far as what role does the Alliance play, obviously our coordination, strengthening partnerships, inviting new members to engage them with our work, that we're able to facilitate geographical collaboration on shared goals, sharing of advocacy alerts, our hub, which you'll hear more about, which has been a great place to showcase and leverage our resources. And then most importantly, setting those realistic expectations of capacity. Many of our partners, as you know, through coalition building and within your own jobs and in your own workplaces, you're involved with a lot of activities and initiatives, and so greatly appreciative. But we also have to just give ourselves grace and understanding. We're driven as an alliance by limited staff, and therefore require our partners to leverage their resources. But just to be respectful as we're setting realistic goals on these activities of what we can accomplish. Any other feedback on that first conversation? Other ideas? Laura, do you want to go to the next slide? Please. All right. This one was, how can partner organizations ensure capacity building efforts that are inclusive to address diversity, equity, and inclusion within our conservation sector? Again, back to capacity building, engaging groups that are already doing the work. So instead of us trying to create something new, we just have to do our homework and invite others and ask to be participatory and collaborative with that. So that came through. Reaching out to diverse organizations, individuals that are not part of our work, that helps with our JEDI work. And then just some more cultural competency training around safety, natural areas and how to reduce barriers, and our equity and inclusion, opportunities for more paid internships, travel opportunities. And I know with our NOAA grant, we have some opportunities for that, as well as what we're trying to achieve with our climate action plan for people and nature, and with our continued funding for our JEDI training group. And Laura, I don't know if you want to highlight here or if that's going to come later with some of the opportunities for our continued work on our JEDI training coming into the fall.
Yes, I'd be happy to do it. We are in process of developing a Native American perspective on land and land management series. And we've been in collaboration with the Nature Conservancy and many partners, Trickster Cultural Center and many other partners, Field Museum, to develop this, where we would like to launch with an introductory workshop or cafe targeted for summer or early summer, and then launch a guided training of Indian Country 101. And this would be facilitated at various points. It would be an independent, self-guided training, but we would have some facilitated sessions at about 3 different points throughout the curriculum that would culminate in our Congress ceremonies that we would like to incorporate as part of Congress. And then we are in communication with Gina Roxas from Trickster Cultural Center to develop a Native-led climate summit in January of 2027. And looking forward to the implementation of the climate action plan for people and nature, we would like to continue these conversations and these connections in the work that we will be doing in 2025. So we're really excited about this. Is like the third part of our series of JEDI training and engagement, and we're in communication and just starting the conversations to bring the partners to the table to develop what that will look and feel like, but are excited to get that going.
Thank you, Laura. Any other thoughts and ideas on conversation number 2? All right, moving on to conversation number 3. How can we work with you and your organization to more effectively onboard and mobilize your staff and volunteers to support and maximize conservation impact for our shared green vision for the region? And so here there are some resources and tools that we heard that would be helpful that we put together so that we can provide maybe a 1-hour training program that you would be able to use as you bring on employees to your organization. And helping to also identify where we could use help is roles of individual people and organizations so we can better target initiatives. And so that's key to let Laura or other members of the steering committee know as you're onboarding new team members that we get them included so they're receiving the e-news alerts and invitations to the Alliance. And so that's helpful to build that capacity. And partners, that are serving, if we can ensure that executives are aware of the work and that they're, encouraging their team members to be involved with the work of the Alliance. And we see that all of the partners that are here, who's coming to executive council meetings, but are there others within your organization getting involved? And then clearly outlining the why, that there's the benefits of being involved with the Alliance and that we're able to share some messaging in a compelling way versus just coming together for another meeting, but there's actually action happening. There's educational opportunities that are being advanced, et cetera. And then of course, barriers, helping to remove some of those, such as transportation. And then one of the big areas, I think, with the rebranding, was the focus of the new logo. And even though it's Chicago Wilderness Alliance within our title, is that we represent more than just Chicago, and that we are generally interested in representing all the interest of all of our partners in the 4-state region. And so continuing to keep that in mind as we're working on programs and activities and invitations to participate in our work. And yeah, sharing of success stories. So you're going to see that later today. That was one of the feedbacks. So you're going to see 2 stories that we're going to share with you, Stronger Together, this morning.
Elizabeth, this is Steve Byers. I was wondering, I'm with an organization that doesn't have a full-time staff. I was wondering if Chicago Wilderness could help its partners and the Alliance by serving as a clearinghouse for all the different types of grants that are coming through, whether they're with the NRCS or with their Climate Corps. Is that something that you've considered and would that be a possibility?
Sure. So let's talk about that. We do have a funding group, and one of the areas, and Victoria, you're probably spot on, and Ted, you've been serving on that role of how to share what's out there, but to break it down for our group. So someone else want to kind of maybe share what we've been doing, but how maybe to build on Steve's thoughts there.
I can help out there, Elizabeth, if that works.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Steve, to your question, we do have a grants list that we update as much as we can. That link has been shared, but my guess is someone can share it out again. I don't have it handy, but Laura's pretty good with that stuff. And if she can't find it right now, she will send it out with the notes. So those grants are organized and coded into loosely organized categories like federal, state, things like that, private philanthropy. We do our best to update it. It's probably not the greatest. I know we have partners that also do this work. So Victoria just shared a link, or Victoria just shared the link to us, but Victoria also has organizations and help with this and can track and has lists also. So that's one thing that we've done, Steve. The other thing, as I work to get into my new role, this conversation, I think you saw in conversation 1, there was that need for funding support. So that will be part of my role moving forward. And as I work to assess the GVI teams, we have some strategies and ideas in the works for that to help groups like you figure out funding. Part of that is a list that tracks project ideas. This is not a new list, but we've been trying to institutionalize this for the last year. And based on our 2 big grant submissions this past year, that list is really instrumental for us to be organized early before we go out to the grant, not doing the work of creating the project while we apply for the grant. If that's helpful to you, that's great. Steve, also, I can put my email in there and we can have an offline conversation, or I can email you off the side if this was not enough for you. Victoria, do you want to add to this conversation at all?
No, I think you've done a great job summarizing, Ted, and encourage folks to click on those links and peruse the incredible volume of resources that Laura has put together. I mean, it's an incredible list. She does track the Northwest Indiana Urban Waters Federal Partnership monthly newsletters, which summarize all of the funding opportunities that are curated for partners in Northwest Indiana, but she goes above and beyond that list and populates it with those funding opportunities that are available in our other geographies. So Illinois, Michigan and Wisconsin. So encourage folks to explore those resources and yeah, connect with Ted if you'd like to get involved in the meeting that is convened to discuss.
Yeah, I was going to reiterate that too, Victoria. I would love, Steve, for you to attend even one of our meetings to sort of think further and deeper about what that could look like, and would welcome your insight very much.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ted, Victoria, and Laura, and Steve. Thank you for volunteering to assist in that way, and that would be great. And the key here is we need to get the funding back to our 4 state regions so that we can bring all of these ideas and our partnership work into fruition and get some funding to do the great work. So however we can do that. And then succession planning, ultimately, as we see a lot of transitions going with leadership and those that have been involved with the Alliance, we need to make sure that our new emerging professionals and those that are involved in our organization understand the Alliance and the importance it is to commit and to lean in to help us with this work and to be part of that. So we have to make sure that the next generation is ready to step forward. All right, conversation number 4. Okay, areas, skills and knowledge areas prioritized for capacity building programs for conservation leaders. And again, so diversification, you see training that we can provide. So again, seeing that the Alliance can do more additional work with development. Again, back to we see grant writing, how to help with donor interaction, reading, science, GIS mapping, et cetera. So areas that we can build upon. And so we appreciate you sharing that with us, because as we plan cafes or other leadership opportunities here, we can add that into our mix. Anything else that you're seeing as far as skills and knowledge that we should be looking at? I don't see any hands. Let's move up to conversation number 5. Okay, and how can we as leaders collaborate best practices, share resources for capacity building, and create more interconnectivity for our regional work? And key piece is just how we communicate with one another so that we're aware of what's happening. Again, so we can join on and collaborate, and opportunities for connection here. So again, meeting times, again, seem to be that we need to have them well structured, short, facilitated, and focused. Because time and effort, everyone does not have a lot of time to attend a lot of meetings, so we have to be effective. Any other thoughts on how we can continue to be more interconnected with our work regionally, and how the Alliance can help facilitate that? All right, other ideas are welcome. You know, obviously opportunities here through that, the e-news, sharing of information, so that we can connect everybody. That's great. And then the last conversation that was held was, how do we cultivate, welcome, and nurture new partners into our collective work more effectively? And so as we bring new partners on, what are we doing to onboard them so they're comfortable with our work? There are areas that we need to be reaching out to. So planners, mayor caucuses, and again, connecting that nature is the foundation of the work that we're doing and for economic development. And then showcasing the great work, which you see in all the materials that are being produced by our Small and Mighty team and our partners. So obviously having information on our website, our annual report, connecting opportunities to engage with our Green Vision Initiative work, cafes, and career center. Anything else that we can be doing as you're a new partner to make you feel welcome and more involved with our work?
Elizabeth, I just would point out that all 6 of these conversations are around how to partner better for impact in various ways, and that leads directly, and I know we'll talk about it later, into the theme for Congress this year. Mm-hmm. So anything that feels like a live conversation on any of these points, now's the time to kind of wrap them into some format to talk about it at Congress with a lot more people. So I just, the thrust of this moves in the direction of the theme for Congress, that we're better together. And I would also just say, being part of the steering committee, every one of these points, really taking it in and thinking about how best to activate these points. So your thoughts are most welcome as we go, whether today or later through contact with the steering committee.
Awesome, Mark. Thank you so much.
Elizabeth and Laura, I know that early on there was a lot of work by Chicago Wilderness in detailing the ecosystem services associated with open spaces in the Chicago Wilderness region. And I see your point number 2 here, need to reach planners, mayor's caucus, et cetera, but is there a way that those planners and mayors and leaders in the region could easily access the ecosystem services that are provided by the open spaces in the Chicago Wilderness region? I just haven't been connected with Chicago Wilderness for a while, but I was involved with some of that early work in detailing the ecosystem services. So I'm just wondering if that information is still readily available or featured in some way in the Chicago Wilderness website.
Steve, what a great set you up here to kind of lead us into some of the next conversation. So, and again, thank you and everyone that was involved with that early work that was foundation building for the Alliance. And Mark at the Field Museum has been designing our hub, which is the repository for all of this great work to be shared in a geographical, geospatial way. So I don't know if we want to go into that in our next conversation. Does everybody agree that Mark will lead into that response to Steve?
Yeah, and Eric has his hand up.
Okay. So we'll get back to that, Steve.
We'll
Yeah,
come
Eric.
back to that, Steve. Yep.
Eric, who else?
Sorry. Good morning, everybody. And I do apologize. I did enter late. So if this conversation goes awry because you've already had it, feel free to stop me. But one thing I've noticed a lot lately is right, the choir is singing a lot of great praises, and we're all singing together. With a lot of our recent projects, and we have had a lot of major impacts in neighbors and the general public. I'm wondering if there's a way for all of us, for the Alliance to be more out front of the general public versus our partners and agencies and the choir. Are we singing to the congregation from that standpoint? Because I feel like we talk about all the great work that we do, and we support each other, and there's grants, and we do great work, but we constantly are battling the people that either don't understand what, why, or how, or why we do it the way we do it, or when we do it. And I just wonder if there's a way to get a bigger audience in a different format. And maybe we're doing that. It's something that came up a lot lately with our dam removals, with a lot of our just winter tree work. The fact that people are more active in the winter because the winters are less cold. So they're seeing us burn, cut, slash, spray, mow, do all sorts of things that we're doing for restoration in the region. So they're at least more aware. They're asking a lot of great questions. And I'll be honest, every single conversation I've been having, usually it's a minute or two in and they start to get it. So I'm just wondering if that's a way to just increase our awarenesses with the general public versus just partners and alliances that we all share. But it's an idea.
Eric, thank you so much for adding that. And clearly the work that our partners are doing and through their promotion efforts to share all that outwardly. I know when PCI had looked for our focus and effort, our primary audience was our practitioners or our partners to help build them, is pulling everything together. But as we grow stronger, and again, I'm open to how we can pivot to add on as our natural work to expand into that focus areas through the web. But they had asked, that was part of their recommendation, was identification of start inward and then grow outward. But I think,
Sure.
I can see the capacity, right, of what all the great work that we're doing to advance that.
Right.
Other thoughts from those that are familiar? Feedback.
Yes, I just wanted to jump in here a little bit, Elizabeth, and refer back to the conversation CWA had with the Executive Council and Steering Committee and all partners, I believe in 2022 into 2023. And that was to focus in on who is Chicago Wilderness Alliance, and the consensus sort of landed on it's a community of conservation partners. And so in that regard, I think the Alliance is trying to focus in on how to do the work that the Alliance has laid out in the Green Vision initiatives and other work without trying to do too much with limited resources. So that's a way to again, focus in and manage a really complex series of challenges facing the environment by drawing on the strengths that all these conservation partners bring to the table. I hope that made sense. And would be interested in further conversation on that either now or at a later time.
Thank you, Victoria. And Eric, thank you. Laura, you've got your hand up.
Yes, you know, and one other medium that we have to advance some of these conversations about communications would be through the cafe format that, you know, maybe coming together to sort of identify what are the messages or some of the ways that we can kind of collaborate to come up with some of those talking points that Eric was referencing for. We recently held a cafe on winter, you know, the changing climate and what that means for restoration in the region. And I can drop a link to that into the chat, but maybe some of the communications challenges around that might be something that we could address in a further cafe that would give resources for our other partners to utilize.
Thank you, Laura. Yeah, the other thing too, I think just for that public awareness side and awareness of the Chicago Wilderness Alliance, and it definitely, we don't want it to be the best kept secret because we're all here, we're very involved for our collaborative work. But as we run and work with collaborations, and we all wear many in the conservation community, many hats, meaning we're volunteering for many different organizations, and that we also remember to link back up that Chicago Wilderness Alliance Stronger Together is a way to make that happen. And so if we can also share our connection with Chicago Wilderness Alliance as part of our branding back within organizations, that also helps amplify our collective work. And sometimes that might just, you know, just get left off in the conversation. So if there's an intentional way we each as partners can align publicly with that, then that brings better awareness to the Alliance and the partners' work. Any other thoughts from anyone? Great conversations. We want to keep these conversations going, and as we build towards Congress, ideas are always welcome to be shared, and we will continue to work through these to be stronger with all the work that we're doing with the capacity.
I just wanted to follow up on something that Laura said about the cafe, the Winter Works Cafe. And Steve Byers actually asked a question that was great at that cafe. And I haven't had a chance to follow up, but one of the things that that his question prompted was kind of a thought that we had about putting together kind of both a equipment list of what it takes to do kind of large, medium to large scale restoration, not handwork, but kind of the larger scale pieces of machinery that forest preserve districts and maybe park districts have access to, that smaller organizations might not, but that contractors could have. And also potentially a list of contractors that can help smaller groups implement some of that work. And I think it's a fabulous resource that we could make available. Definitely needs sort of the CWA scale resources to host that, I think. But I think that kind of some of the questions that Steve is asking overall here kind of made me think about having those types of resources available for our partners.
Awesome. Thank you, Patty. Anyone else have any other thoughts, ideas to share? All right, thank you. Let's go ahead and we'll move on next. And I'm going to move, I believe, from what I'm looking at the slide, we have GVI updates next. So let's go ahead with this one. We'll go back and this will help address Steve's question, and I'll turn it over to Ted and Mark.
Mark, you want me to start and then you can focus on the hub, or do you want to do it vice versa?
I don't know what you're about to say, so I'll just let you go ahead and get started and
Okay.
I'll hop in afterwards.
Next slide, please, Laura. Oh, it wasn't there. Okay, so we had some successes in 2023. I'm speaking for individual goal groups here, so if I make a mistake, please jump in and you're here. So there was the wildfire work is up and running. I believe that draft plan is almost complete. So we're really excited about that. That will allow us to put fire on the land in a much bigger scale, as well as training initiatives and burn boss criteria. This class through the Morton Arboretum and other institutions was offered multiple times last year. So that helped increase sort of the size and scale of burn crews and burn crew training. So, to keep that pipeline going, this plan will help, the resources through this plan will help, and these trainings definitely help. And we've heard one-on-one stories about how it's nice to be able to have succession planning for these burn bosses, because it's really, really difficult. And there's a lot of pressure on the 2 or 3 in the region that have this certification. So that's well underway and we're really happy about that. Next slide, please, Laura. Okay, so I'm gonna step out. I thought this slide was first and I'm sorry it wasn't. This is sort of the high level focus. So this year, we're looking at next week to have a GVI meeting with all coordinators. To prepare for that, I've had one-on-ones to understand the issues of each group and in general over the whole GVI teams. I'm working on creating with Laura an active and participatory agenda focusing on main issues such as capacity and co-leads, funding. There's your funding question, Steve, so that trickles down to these groups as well. And then leadership, support, and succession. There are a couple other high-level topics in there, but I think those are the essence of the conversation. We're also looking at coordinating GVI team Congress and Congress proposals that are due May 3rd. So I have a number of meetings that I'm working to set up with different folks to increase the pool of those proposals and get those ideas out there for folks that are struggling. And then I'm toying with this idea of a stoplight. So right now, the teams that have green stoplights are managing healthy landscapes, accessing healthy landscapes, and our climate team. I don't know where the others fit on that continuum, so I've just put a TBD right now. They may jump into the green, they may be in the yellow. I'm still working to analyze and assess those things moving forward. Next slide, please, Laura.
One moment, I'm switching the presentations just because I
sorry.
think we have the wrong one up. Is this correct?
Yeah, and then you can go to the next slide, Lee. Growing with Agriculture, Group 2. So the Kane County Field Day was sold out. That was great. There was a little bit of a kerfuffle there because they felt that the audience that they were looking for didn't actually get an opportunity to participate because it was so successful and sold out early. And then they are working with a bigger coalition to develop an agriculture quality of life plan for Will County. Part of that initiative is to stop the Peatone Airport, but I think most of us involved in this are trying to really focus on the quality of life plan for agriculture rather than mentioning that we're stopping the airport. Next group, please. Next slide. Okay, group 3. So this is our green infrastructure group. Right now, they're focusing on activating rights of ways with utility companies. They've had a number of workshops over the past couple of years. There is another workshop, I believe, gosh, I can't remember the date, but it's like May 3rd, 20th, I believe, something like that, and we can send that out. But those are great meetings to understand what these partners are looking at, the limited resources, despite big names like Illinois Tollway and ComEd. They really do struggle to find habitat and pollinator funding opportunities for their rights of way that they have easements for. So that's what we're working on there. And then we'll slowly bleed in the other green infrastructure elements to that group, like water and things like that. Next slide, please. Protecting landscapes. So this is a very quiet but active group. They, as you see, are working on defense opportunities, trying to figure out what priorities they need in order to do their work. I think there were a lot of lessons learned from the Rockford Airport issue a year over the past couple of years. So defense is on their mind, and resources and proactivity is on their mind. Other than that, this is one of the groups that I need to touch base with and I don't know a lot about. So please stay tuned here. Next slide, please. So group 5, our Increasing Equitable Access to Nature group. The Parker McMillan Bushman series was very popular, and almost every session was either oversubscribed or at subscription. The nice thing about this is we have those for the next 3 years, free and available on the website. And then I will stop here because I think Laura earlier did quite a good amount of justice to the next steps for this group with the Indigenous training and focus. And because that's still under development, more will be coming out for that. Next slide, please. So our climate update is, it's all over the place right now. We're working on updating the CAP-N, which is the Chicago Wilderness Alliance Climate Action Plan for People and Nature. And under this, we need to recognize that for us to be successful, we do need community co-created ideas and chapters for sectors or different community types. That's the current thinking there. And that we want to accelerate and provide nature-based solutions for the region, and especially for planning documents that are light on nature solutions. And to this, I look at the City of Chicago Climate Plan, as well as the Regional Climate Plan developed by the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus and Edith Macro. It's in there, but we really need to work to make it more robust and inject it with a lot of these strategies that are often overlooked. Next slide, please. So water has worked in fits and starts because of a number of reorganization issues related to a lot of the turnover that we've seen this year. The water group needs some help. They need a leader, a co-leader. It had been through a series of folks, and Laura Barghusen, who was the past lead, has been pulled off of that and will, I think, participate still while she can, but we need someone to move this forward. And we have some ideas. This is an active conversation with Laura and I and a couple other folks So even though this is a gap right now, we do have conversations underway. They did hold a cafe last year, and there were 2 meetings, which were really helpful to the conversation, and has actually led to this idea that's a really important idea that one of our best ways to provide nature-based solutions is through watershed planning at the sort of county or sub-county watershed level, depending on how that shakes out according to the plan and the watershed. So those are sort of the updates there. I don't believe there are any more slides, but Lake, if you want to just go one more slide to make sure. Yeah. Okay. So let's go back to the first slide so that Mark can give his hub update and talk about that. Thank you.
Excellent. Good morning, everyone. And actually, if you want, you can go back one slide to that. Yeah, so people can scan that if they want to. Although you're better off doing this in a web browser, so you can go to hub.chicagowilderness.org, which I just put in the chat, although it doesn't look like it's hyperlinked. But yeah, Laura asked me to give a quick kind of update to the hub, particularly because, and we can, I think now probably move to the next slide. Particularly because we have a new data set related to the excellence in ecological restoration that we were talking about just earlier in the presentation at the beginning or near the beginning. So this new interactive map will show you kind of where all the different awardee locations are, and I'll pull that up in a minute on my screen. But this it will actually kind of spoiler alert, may be featured as our next map of the month. And in case you haven't noticed in the new, in the newsletters that have been going out for Chicago Wilderness, we have a new section at the bottom of those newsletters that is about the map of the month. So in March, we had one that was about the ecological planning areas that Amy Heldman helped us create. She's with the Friends of the Chicago River. And then in April, we had one about birds of concern. And we'll take a look at those 2 data sets as well as the ecological, as well as the excellence in ecological restoration. So I'm going to share my screen real quick, try to keep this super brief. Okay, so this is the hub site. So if you want to look at some of these resources, you can just come down to this data repository and click on that and search for these data sets. So, I'm sorry, excellence. And you'll see there's one here, the web map. So I'm going to click on that one. And you'll get this interactive map. And so this is kind of brand new, allows you to, let's see, I'll click on one of the new sites here. So this is the Sand Ridge Savannah Nature Preserve. So this is a 2023 awardee. And it allows you to kind of see where those sites are and maybe go visit them yourself. I think we had another one, probably going to get this wrong, somewhere up in here. There it is, the Greenbelt Forest Preserve. So take a look at this new resource. One thing a lot of folks don't know is you can, if you're signed into the site, which I guess I'm not currently, you'll see amongst these buttons over here, you can actually start a discussion. And so you can click there and leave a comment about the map. You can zoom into part of it and leave a comment about a location. So that's kind of fun. I will also show you, since we were talking about it, the, let's see, scroll down here, data repository. The other map that we were talking about was birds of concern, hotspots map. So this one was also featured just this month. So it's hard to see. There's tiny little dots that are starting to populate on this map, but if you zoom into it, you'll see, and by the way, there's a legend over here on the right, so you can see what these things are. But these are where we've seen bird observations from eBird. This is kind of a live data feed over the last 3 years. Data will automatically populate into this and show you for the birds of concern where we're seeing those hotspots. It gives you counts. So there's 13 migratory bird species that have been seen in this particular area. Gives you some pictures of that. We're looking for better pictures, by the way, if you have good ones to share with us. But that's a new map that you can kind of check out. That's fun. Again, you can leave comments on that map if you're logged in. And I'll show you one other one here. Oh, maybe I should point out, Steve had a question about, I think, the ESS. So I'm going to put in services. So Steve, you were asking about ecosystem services. So from the GIV, this is kind of dated now, but it's from 2014, but you'll see these are all recreation and tourism, nature and flora and fauna. All those maps have been loaded into the hub, so you can go there and search for those. But let's see, the last one was planning areas. So this is the other one that was featured in the newsletter. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. So what you can do with this map is zoom into any particular region, but you can see, I'm going to click in a particularly busy one, and there's a lot of overlapping polygons. So if you see down here on my map where I'm circling, it says 1 of 5. And so I can sort of cycle between those different ones in that area. When I find the right one that I want, I can click on view, and it'll pull up that report. So it's just sort of a quick and easy way to see what planning work has already gone into the hub, and you can access that through that interactive map. I think I'll stop there. It's a quick update.
Thank you, Mark, the master of the hub. But so exciting to see all of that. And again, to the Field Museum and all the partners that are helping to provide information. And it'll be as good as we use it and share it. And I love the map of the month. Steve, did that answer your question that you had about how we're connecting? Good. Anyone else about questions for Mark on the hub? All right. Thank you, Mark. Again, thank you for your leadership in pulling that all together. And so exciting to see where that is going. All right, Congress, I'm going to turn this over to Victoria.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I hope everybody on the call is getting really excited about the Chicago Wilderness Alliance Congress. It's scheduled for Friday, November 15th, and will be held at the charming campus of Purdue University Northwest. We have a lot of plans underway. Laura is working behind the scenes along with Maria and her team to put together the planning committee, the review of proposals, subcommittees to bring in emerging professionals, field trips. I mean, it's going to be an amazing day. I think the biggest update right now is that the call for proposals is currently out. The deadline, I believe, is May 3rd. Thank you, Laura, for dropping the link in the chat there. So everyone, please do click on that link. And if anyone in your organization or network or collaborative partnership has something to share, really encourage you to submit a proposal. The theme this year is Stronger Together, Building a Resilient Region Through Partnerships. So if you've got a partnership that's doing groundbreaking work, this is the time to elevate that and shine a spotlight, share out what's working for you, what challenges you face. And I also wanted to mention for those that are not yet aware, the location at Purdue University Northwest also lends itself to an opportunity to showcase work that's been underway in the Calumet region by a lot of partners that have been involved with Chicago Wilderness Alliance since the very beginning. So there'll be an opportunity to do deep dives into how that work has unfolded over the years, where it's at now and where it's headed, which is pretty amazing. So yes, I think that's the big update there. there's a monthly planning meeting that everyone is welcome to join. And again, those planning meetings bring everyone together, but we're coordinating a variety of sort of subcommittees or working groups that are going to make the magic happen on the day. And we really do need folks to lean in, lend us their talents and skills to make Congress as amazing as we intend it to be. So I'll stop there. I'm sure I missed a lot of things, but yeah, I'll stop there and hand it over to Laura in case she wants to chime in, or anyone else.
Thank you, Victoria. I just dropped the calendar invitation for the next Congress planning meeting into the chat, and anyone is welcome to join us. You just click on the link and you can add your name to the calendar invite. We would be thrilled to have you.
Mm-hmm. And I see on the slide that folks can become a sponsor of Congress, and there are various levels. So also encourage you guys to go back to your teams and discuss whether or not you can be a fiscal sponsor of our biannual conference.
Thank you, Victoria, and the work of the Congress Planning Committee, Laura, and the work of our sponsors. I know sponsorship is starting to come in here, and so it's a great suite of opportunities at different levels. We also had on this discussion here, maybe to talk a little bit about registration costs. And we're grateful for the contributions in kind to help us bring this program at less of a cost forward. But we want to have that. Laura, do you want to take that, or who wants to lead that?
Okay, so we are in discussion right now. We were really fortunate to be able to secure the location at Purdue University Northwest, and our conversation around sponsorship will really inform what we are able to offer in terms of registration costs. In years past, and we will continue to do this, we've always offered a no questions asked stipend or scholarship for the event, and we intend to offer that again as well. And our intention is to keep our fixed registration fee as low as possible. So our range is probably starting between $35 to $50 based on how we do with our sponsorship drive in this. There are opportunities to sponsor and then have a set number of complimentary registration tickets offered. So our premier sponsor level is 30 complimentary tickets, and then it goes down in increments of 5 to that. Those organizations that sponsor at the $1,000 level or higher will be invited to have a table opportunity on the concourse during the day. And so we invite you to consider that if you'd like to have a table at the event. And the tickets that are afforded to you can be used for your organization, or they can be donated back into the scholarship fund. If you do not have the need for those tickets, we can add them to our scholarship. We simply ask people to complete a survey with their name and their organization if they have an organization, and we send them a promotional code if they are requesting a stipend for the event. So we really do try to keep this accessible and low cost and free for those that need it.
Wonderful. Any thoughts, feedback to the Congress Planning Committee, or things we should be aware of as we move forward with our planning?
Big shout out to the Wetlands Initiative. Hope
Absolutely.
everybody sees that in the chat. That's really great.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Paul. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, so save the date, put it on your calendar, get those submissions in, and round up team members from your organization and others and invite them to the Congress. All right, let's go ahead. We're going to move on to new business if we can. And under new business, there's a variety of things for discussion. Some are just announcements. So I'm going to turn the first one over to you, Mark, as our treasurer, to talk about the budget and what we're looking for.
Well, we are starting to take in thoughts about 2025. By May 31st, I think we may know something about the NOAA grant that will help us to shape the budget picture for 25. This is my first rodeo on this particular process in terms of being the treasurer. But I think a lot of the things we just saw in the conversations that Elizabeth reviewed, and then the work that Ted reviewed through the initiatives, those have some budgetary implications. So I think this is the moment to kind of get those specific ideas in so we can take them up and let the budget reflect our plan for 2025. So that's where we're at.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mark. And so for the executive council, you'll have a draft budget at the July council meeting.
Yep.
And then just out of process, we do a final approval at the October meeting. So just wanted, which I appreciate your shout out, Mark, you're doing a great job. Mike, I see with us, he's been our treasurer prior to that, doing awesome, and we are in solid footing, but being able to move forward and incorporate ideas. And so this is just an all call. If you have thoughts and ideas from the GVI groups, working teams that you want to share or get a thought to us, now's the time. Open the floor, not today, but to send information on so that we can consider that as we build the budget. Wonderful. Thank you. All right, call for nominations, and we're starting this early. As we announced before, we do have some vacated seats, and then just in planning for preparation to call for nominations, myself and my role as chair, my term of a 2-term will be ending at the end of this calendar year. And so again, there's an opportunity. We'll be looking for individuals, either they're on the steering committee or not, to consider serving in this role, as well as others. So again, we'll be looking to have conversations with anyone that's interested, doing some outreach. But should you know someone, or should you be interested and you want to self-nominate yourself, please connect with Laura, myself, or other members on the steering committee. We'll be establishing that nominations team to review candidates to fill these seats for the upcoming year. And we'll get information out too on the roles and responsibilities in case anybody's unfamiliar with the role of the steering committee. But in essence, in brief, obviously we help set and shape the agenda for these quarterly meetings. We are there to help, since we do not have a large staff, to help Laura, Lake, Maria, and team in providing guidance to them, but doing much of the administrative back-end work to keep things flowing and moving from an alliance. And again, would encourage anyone that's interested to seek this opportunity. We could use your leadership. Anything else from steering committee or questions on nominations? Okay, and then just to recap, we already highlighted this, but again, just a reminder, really exciting work that's going on with our Jedi series, and this will be part 3. So be looking for information for these workshops, and then a particular stewardship conference to be going on in spring of 2025, actually. You're working on the sessions to be this fall, correct?
So the initial workshop is going to be planned for late May or June of 2024. And then we would launch towards the end of the summer, the self-guided training series, ideally through Indian Country 101, with a few facilitated sessions from our partners, our Indigenous partners. And we would anticipate then that there would be a ceremony incorporated into Congress on November 15th. And then the Native-led Climate Summit Planning Group is targeting January of 2025. And then the continuation of that work will happen through CAPN in 2025.
Right. Thank you, Laura, for the clarification there. All right. So those are the things to be looking for. So let's move on. Now the next part really goes back to that stronger together, and we're really excited to feature two particular stories and efforts that that we can highlight here within the Chicago Wilderness Alliance region. And truly, as we know, I think the Alliance has enabled these opportunities to happen just basis of us being and coming together with good thoughts and ideas and amazing people and organizations to make it happen. So it's my pleasure to turn it over to Steve Byers, who has put together this presentation to talk about the amazing, newsworthy acquisition and partnership that's going on in Wisconsin, Illinois. Steve.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I'm just going to go ahead and nod my head, and I think someone there will be advancing my slides. Is that right, Laura?
That's right.
Okay, so I'll nod.
Okay.
That's not it. Okay.
Next slide.
Next slide. Well, I think you had it there, Laura.
Yep. Lake, I think we're gonna need to just pause right there and upload Steve's slides. So let's give a minute and we can come back to it. Edward, in the meantime, would you like to give the update on the City Nature Challenge? And we will get Steve's slides, and we do have those, Steve, don't worry.
I'm not. Okay.
Sure, yeah, I can jump in here.
Okay, go ahead, Lake.
All right, well, it looks like at least my first slide is there, so let's go for this. Hi, everybody. My name is Edward Borden. I am the Community Stewardship Program Manager for in a joint role between the Chicago Park District and the Nature Conservancy. I joined a little late, so I didn't catch people's introductions at the beginning, but hi, I've met many of you in some context before. I've been helping out a lot with the Chicago Wilderness Congress Planning Committee as well, so maybe I work with and met a lot of you in that context as well. In any case, I'm here to talk to you guys about the City Nature Challenge. So we're all virtual. Normally I'd be like, raise your hand if you've ever participated in the City Nature Challenge before. I'm just going to assume everybody's hands here are raised. Yay, or you can put like one of those virtual hands up. But the City Nature Challenge in a nutshell is a global biodiversity competition. That's really it at its heart. It's basically getting this idea in the front of people's minds that cities are hubs for biodiversity and nature. And I know I don't have to sell that idea to this group here, but you know, it's still a kind of pervasive sense that cities are devoid of life. So this competition uses iNaturalist at its foundation to encourage the public to go out and document any form of life within their respective metro areas. Birds, plants, fungi, protozoans, if that's your thing, whatever it is, as long as it's a living organism or even evidence of living organisms, it counts. You go out with iNaturalist, you take a photo, upload it, and it becomes part of this competition to put your city on the map and win the most either people participating or species observed or just observations, period. The period happens over a 4-day weekend. So it starts Friday, April 26th through Monday, April 29th. It shifts every year based on the calendar, but it's usually that last weekend of April. And Chicago Wilderness is serving as the hub for Team Chicago this year, effectively. So you'll see the URL to the website there on that slide. I believe it was just posted in the chat as well. So you can look at, you know, the Chicago Wilderness website and see what exactly it is we're up to and what the team has been developing. But I want to give a special shout out to all of the different partners who've been involved in kind of putting the Team Chicago effort together. Some of the organizations are listed there in that slide, but we have a lot of really amazing Chicago Wilderness colleagues who have come together to really kind of propel this and make this a bigger thing than it would be otherwise on its own. Next slide, please. So a little bit of background. I won't talk too terribly much, but the City Nature Challenge originally started as just a competition between San Francisco and Los Angeles. The developers of iNaturalist at the time were based in San Francisco, or sorry, they were based in LA. And that was just kind of where things started. But then in 2017, they decided, hey, let's expand this to other cities. It doesn't just have to be our two. Chicago was one of the first cities in that year to be adopted. So, pat ourselves on the back, we're early adopters here. And then in 2018, it went net international. Today, there are 300, I forget the exact number, I think it's still actively changing, but there are 300 some cities across the planet that actively participate in the City Nature Challenge. And I mean, you can see that map there. That's an older map. There's more since that map was created, but again, you get the gist of just how far and in scope this challenge can be. So obviously, we're out here competing with in early spring against tropical climate cities. We're competing with, places that maybe have a lot more diversity than we do, but that's okay. We're still very much in it, and we can at least make it a more legitimate competition with maybe our like Midwest's certain latitude, equal latitude cities. But next slide. So I mentioned it's a very simple way to participate. You just download iNaturalist, you take a picture, you upload it to iNaturalist. That is it. That is all you need to do to be a participant in the City Nature Challenge. So it's a great way to, again, encourage people to go out there, take pictures of wildlife, look at what's around them, and just indicate as long as you have a smartphone, you can do it instantaneously. And even then, if you don't have a smartphone or just a simple camera, as long as you're able to upload those photos to the iNaturalist platform online via your web browser or some other form of internet, that is all you need to participate. Some kind of evidence of the life you are observing, uploading it to the website. Next slide. Oh, and I probably should mention that if you're familiar with the app Seek, which is kind of the junior version of iNaturalist, anything in Seek is also fair game for the City Nature Challenge. So a lot of this is probably, again, obvious to this audience here, but why organize around City Nature Challenge? Well, collecting urban biodiversity data. iNaturalist is one of the biggest citizen science data sets at this point on the planet. And certainly we even saw some examples, for example, using eBird, which is another massive citizen science data set that actively helps us in terms of making management decisions in our natural areas across the region. So iNaturalist is no exception. The more we encourage people to use that platform to upload their observations of the city, the more we're able to learn about our local flora and fauna and how our city is impacting and evolving with the wildlife in and around it. So we get to learn about local flora. We get to connect other naturalists with each other. A lot of folks who come to this challenge and utilize iNaturalist as part of this often meet because of this challenge. I know many of the people who are on the team planning this, the Chicago team effort, are people who met each other originally via iNaturalist and City Nature Challenge. Supports efforts in areas of interest. So we can have specific BioBlitzes at certain locations where we really want to emphasize energy and get people out there and draw them out as part of this event to really, hammer home what we're looking for in those areas and collaborate to ID what's found. We're always finding new things in the area. Every year, City Nature Challenge at least pulls out 1 or 2 species that was not previously documented, at least in iNaturalist, or maybe documented in a new area. And that's always really exciting stuff. Next slide. A couple of examples of more specific things. This is especially relevant as we just detected lanternfly for the first time in Chicago. But this is a great example where, again, iNaturalist and City Nature Challenge was a great vehicle for helping people track the spread of this invasive species and identify early where the species was emerging. On a more positive bug note, one of the things I'm very excited about is that this year we have this major cicada emergence occurring. It's anybody's guess whether or not these cicadas will be emerging by the time the City Nature Challenge comes around, but it's a great example where when we last had an emergence 17 years ago, iNaturalist wasn't really a thing, and at least for the lands that I work on, in Chicago Park District lands, we have next to zero data or idea of which parks are actually host to these cicadas and which ones we're potentially going to see an emergence. So that's one area we're very excited to see, and the use of iNaturalist via the City Nature Challenge can potentially identify some really important data gaps for us. Next slide. And this is just a look at iNaturalist, kind of behind the curtain of the folks there and the data. You can see all of those spikes in that chart in terms of usership are from the City Nature Challenge. But what's interesting here with this data is that it's not just, oh, there's a spike and then it goes back down and that's the end of the story. The only time anybody uses iNaturalist is City Nature Challenge. No, what we see is a very notable increase of users overall on average every year following the dates that a City Nature Challenge occurs. So not everybody is sticking to it and continuing to use iNaturalist afterwards, but a fairly significant number of people are. So by bringing people out through the City Nature Challenge, getting them jazzed up about this process, they become adopters of the technology and then are using it more over the course of the year, which again is a tremendous amount of data that we are able to benefit from as land managers. Again, this is a little old data. This is drawing from a presentation I did a couple of years ago, so I'm sure that chart has only continued to grow, but it still gets the point across. Next slide. I guess next slide. Yeah, there we go. Thank you. So what you observe? Well, just about anything. Like we mentioned, if there's a certain topic that you're interested in, certain species or taxa that you're interested, certain location that you're interested in, just do it. That's a great way, again, to encourage people to use this space. Maybe they're like, I don't know, trees are not my thing, but I really love grass. Great. Okay, cool. Go out there and observe as many grass species as you can. Document, document, document. Go crazy. You really like looking at stuff under a microscope? Cool. Go to your local pond. Take a net full of critters. Stick them under a microscope. Document that. Take a picture. Put it on iNaturalist. Whatever your interest area is, there's space for it here in the City Nature Challenge and iNaturalist here. So again, we kind of pointed out the local research there, and now the scope doesn't encompass the entire Chicago Wilderness region as we define it. And that's simply a factor of iNaturalist in trying to sort of somewhat control for the geographic scope of all the cities participating and making sure it's relatively equalized. It means that we can't quite reach all of the regions within what's under the Chicago Wilderness Alliance umbrella, but it's a fairly significant portion of it. And you can see that map there of the counties that do count for us as part of the City Nature Challenge scope here. And next slide. Okay, so a couple of key ways that we're encouraging people to participate. Lead an event. Certainly all the people who are on this Team Chicago organizing team are leading hikes of some kind. Some of them are plant hikes, some of them are bird walks, some of them are just hosting a table where just they encourage people to come by and say hello and check out what's going on. We also have a couple of different scavenger hunts where we encourage people to go, all right, maybe it's not general, maybe that's too broad, you know, the world's full of life, maybe go find this one specific thing and go out and during a certain time frame or during a certain day, try to find this one species or this type of taxa. There's also a number of programs that are engaging virtually. Sure, we've sort of emerged from the COVID years when we had to do everything virtually, but it's still a very powerful tool to reach a lot of people. And there are a couple of virtual Blitz events as well that are occurring to, again, just reach people where they're at and encourage people to participate in some form or fashion, even if they can't physically in the same geography. And then certainly share with your networks. If everybody on this call, you know, is not able to go out there, or you all have networks, share this out there. Let people know this is happening. Get people excited about it. Get people excited about taking pictures of plants and animals in their neighborhood or their block or their local park and uploading it and contributing to this larger picture. I mean, everybody loves a good competition, right? And I don't know how St. Louis continues to beat us year after year. This is the year we got to beat them, right? And then, of course, join the ID party. One of the most important pieces of this, other than the actual observing, is the identifying. Sure, we could have 1 million people upload pictures of plants, but if we don't know that most of them are milkweeds or trees, that's, you know, that's a big piece of making sure the data is actually useful to us and actually helps us also win the competition. So we actually are hosting a ID party at a local brewery on the Tuesday afterwards. I forget exactly. It's on the website. Go check it out. Where we will be going, having some drinks, whipping out our laptops, stacking our tables full of field guides, and geeking out and trying to identify everything. And this is another one where you don't have to be an expert on anything, frankly, to be able to participate and come and hang out and enjoy the process. If you have the ability to say, that thing has feathers, therefore it's a bird, we need you. Come on out. If you have the ability to say, that thing looks like a tree, come on out. We need you to help identify, because the more we have these people honing in, the quicker we can get to proper IDs and get to where we need to be. So doesn't matter what your expertise is. Doesn't matter if your expertise is non-existent. We want you, everybody, to get out there and take photos and help us identify things. Next slide. So I think that's the end of my prez here. So there's just a couple more pieces of information here, a couple of helpful links for you guys to check out. But I hope to see all of you guys on an event or two during the City Nature Challenge. Help us spread the word. And if nothing else, maybe join us for the ID party. It'll be fun. What more could you want? a bunch of nature nerds at a bar with field guides.
Thank you so much, Edward. All right, I'm going to pull up Steve's presentation right now and share my screen, and you will be ready to go here. Okay, next slide. Here we are.
Okay. Thank you, Laura, Elizabeth. This is really a story about how a partnership was built over a extended period of time, and actually began as a dream that was shared over kitchen tables and bars, and then ended up with federal recognition and establishment of the refuge in 2012. Next slide. The Friends actually began by building the biological case for a national wildlife refuge. When you're working with the Fish and Wildlife Service, you need to lay the groundwork for that. And we showed how a refuge would support any number of different plans, including those that are highlighted there. Next slide, the Chicago Wilderness Green Infrastructure. Okay, there we go. You can see how we used the map to show how the refuge would support both the green infrastructure vision and the Chicago Wilderness Biodiversity Recovery Plan. Next slide. We obviously built partnerships with existing conservation groups. We're strong supporters from the get-go. And I need to acknowledge both the Conservation District and Open Lands for their early and strong support for this idea of building a refuge in the Chicago Wilderness region. Next slide. And we work to engage our congressional delegations. Here's a letter of support from senators from Illinois and Wisconsin. So you can see we were working a lot of different avenues as we began to bring a refuge to the region. Next slide. But a theme that we commonly expressed with everybody, with our partners, with the public, with gateway communities, those communities that actually would benefit the most from establishment of a refuge, was that a refuge was not only for the wildlife, but it was also for people. Next slide. And you can see from this opinion piece from the Woodstock Independent that this is a theme that resonated locally, and we enjoyed a lot of support for establishment of a refuge. Next slide. And one of the early first steps was back in August of 2012 when Senator Dick Durbin and Secretary of Interior Ken Salazar actually joined us for an announcement that Hackmatack National Wildlife Refuge was going to be established. Next slide. And then the refuge was officially established on November 6th of 2012 as this nation's 561st refuge, and called for protection of approximately 11,000 acres of land, primarily in the 4 core areas, the dark brown areas in this particular map. And then those core areas are connected through both the North Branch and the South Branch of the Nippersink Creek. So it's a core and corridors concept that was embraced by the Fish and Wildlife Service, and one that the Friends obviously embraced as well. Next slide. So the Friends, who had been a kind of a loose coalition, were formally incorporated. We became the Fish and Wildlife Service official Friends group. You can see our mission there to conserve and enhance the natural and cultural resources of the refuge, and I think just as importantly, to connect people to these resources. Next slide. And so in order to enhance the refuge, we work with our land protection partners to provide stewardship support. We've received over $1 million in support from a variety of different organizations to support restoration of lands that will be or are part of the refuge system. I think just as importantly, the Friends are a hands-on group where we, in 2023, volunteered over 500 hours of work to support lands that will be or are part of the refuge. Next slide. And the Friends work with local organizations, the local high school groups. We really work hard to engage those students so they get a sense of participation and buy-in that this refuge is important to them as well. Next slide. And then more recently, the Friends were awarded a community project funding grant from Congresswoman Underwood to restore 100 acres of wetlands on a parcel located just north of Glacial Park. So you can see we're expanding our outreach to secure additional funds to engage in larger restoration efforts. Next slide. Part of our mission was to bring the refuge to people, and we do that through community outreach. We have 30+ partners that we work with on a number of different activities that we sponsor over the course of the year. World Migratory Bird Day, the Monarch Fair, Eagle Days. You can see the different types of activities that the Friends are engaged in. Next slide. One of the more popular, well-attended events is our Monarch Mania Family Fun Fair in 2023. Over 600 people were able to attend. But again, we would not be able to do this without partners that work to support our shared vision for bringing the refuge and conservation to local communities. Next slide. And we support in conjunction with the McHenry County Conservation District, the Land Conservancy, and the Environmental Defenders, we really are making an effort to reach out to underserved communities and talk about nature for them as well. Next slide. One of the things that the Friends are most proud of is the Hackmatack Conservation Partnership, where 12 organizations have pledged to work together to build and support the refuge. All of them have contributed in some way to helping to build the refuge, and for that we're most thankful. Next slide. To date, over 30 parcels, totaling nearly 4,000 acres, have been protected by our land protection partners. And of those, 7 parcels have now been conveyed to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, a total of 493 acres. But again, this would not have been possible without the support of partners. Next slide. And really getting back to acquisition of Tamarack Farms, this was made possible because of a partnership that included the Conservation Fund, Open Lands, and Illinois Audubon. And they in turn received financial support from a number of other foundations and individuals, all working collectively together to make this acquisition possible. In this image that you see to the left, the 985-acre Tamarack Farms is shown in light pink. And it connects to areas to the North Branch, and to the south, Glacial Park, that are owned by the McHenry County Conservation District. Next slide. So this acquisition is the first it's the largest regional acquisition since 1996, when Medewa National Tallgrass Prairie was established. It represents the 3rd largest macro site in the region, again behind Medewa National Tallgrass Prairie and the wonderful Palos region of the forest preserves of Cook County. This acquisition supports an incredible variety and diversity of habitats and associated plant and animal species, and I think represents an important step in providing resilience to climate change. And for many of us who have worked to promote the refuge, this represents a dream realized, benefiting both people and wildlife. Next image. And so that's a depiction of actually one of the large wetland basins located on Tamarack Farms. It's also has significant and important oak ecosystems, and there will be opportunities to restore prairie on some of the land that had been previously farmed. This is going to be a work in progress, working with our partners and the Fish and Wildlife Service. We anticipate that this land will ultimately be conveyed to the Fish and Wildlife Service as the service has funds through the Land and Water Conservation Fund to buy the properties back from our three important partners here: Open Lands, the Conservation Fund, and of course, Illinois Audubon. Next slide. Next slide. So the Friends would like to recognize a number of individuals that have worked hard to make this particular acquisition possible. You can see them there. Many of you know the organizations that they're represented. Jerry with Open Lands, Todd Boonstra, who was with Fish and Wildlife Service, Emmy Brawley with the Conservation Fund, Amy Collins, the Conservation Fund, Ed Collins, a tireless supporter of the refuge with the McHenry County Conservation District, Michael Davidson, now with Open Lands, Joe Facette with Illinois Audubon, Ethan with the Fish and Wildlife Service, Kathy Nigg with the Fish and Wildlife Service, John Rogner with the Fish and Wildlife Service, Illinois Department of Natural Resources, Emily Rusig with Open Lands, and Cassie Skaggs with the Fish and Wildlife Service. And so there are a number of countless other individuals and partners who have worked tirelessly over the years to support the refuge to help make that dream a reality. A next image. So nothing happens unless first a dream, and that was, I think, our guiding principle for many years until the refuge was formally established. And now that the refuge is established, that the Friends are continuing to work with all of our partners to continue to build the refuge. We are stronger together.
Thank you,
And I
Steve.
think that's the last slide.
Thank you, Steve. What a great sharing and spotlighting of an amazing story. And I just want to thank you for putting that together, as well as Ed on the Nature iCity Challenge here. Again, great to tell the stories that are going on. And I also, for those with introductions, I do see that Craig McPeak from U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service also was able to join and will be kind of leading in areas, even though I know in the offices in Chicago, but still facilitating here all the great work. And again, wonderful. Thank you. For our partners in the last piece before we close out this morning's meeting, just some general announcements. So for shout outs here, and they are on your listed session lab here. So we've got Prairie State Coalition, a big gift that they had, One Earth Day Festival, the Gentry Awards, and acknowledging Urban Rivers, which is one of our partners, on May 23rd. And that's a shout out to come on and join us. Friends of the Chicago River have Chicago River Day on May 11th. The Chicago Plant Science Symposium at Chicago Botanic Gardens on April 20th. And of course, the Indiana Dunes Birding Festival on May 16th and 19th. Any other announcements from our partners that you would just like to give a shout out, please place them in the chat and shout them out to the rest of the group here. Anybody else have any other announcements?
Yeah, Elizabeth, I just would like to let everybody know that the Healthy Landscapes team meeting is next week. It's going to be in person at the Greenbelt Cultural Center in Lake County. And if people are available or want more information, they can shoot me an email and I'm happy to provide more details.
Thank you, Patty. Wonderful.
I will drop the link in the chat now.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any announcements? Questions for the partnership? More to come. I do know we had a cafe. Thank you to Trust for Public Land, Open Lands, Conservation Foundation, and representatives on within, at least in the Chicago region, about potential ballot measures, referenda, propositions. And I know we just posted our agenda later this month. We will be next week advancing a question for ballot on a proposition for the McHenry County Conservation District. And I know our other partners are positioning as well, surrounding areas. So again, more information to come on that. But keep your eyes and ears open. Any other announcements? Again, if you have an idea, a partnership, please reach out. We'd love to feature you at a following executive council meeting, or submit those ideas to Congress, or potential we can curate a cafe around that, which gets great wide attendance and engagement. So again, thank you for everything that everyone's doing to strengthen and become stronger together in the region on behalf of the Chicago Wilderness Alliance. Any other sharing for the good of the group? Otherwise, I will take a motion for adjournment.
I will make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Victoria. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second. Thank you so much, Kathy. All right. All those in favor for adjournment, motion by saying aye.
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 Those that wish to stay and talk. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Appreciate you all, and we'll see you around soon. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.